President Trump makes an announcement and all of left-wing Twitter melts down. Kayleigh McEnany has a press conference and the press room melts down. Wisconsin electors question the legitimacy of a vote in the park event in Madison and Madison melts down. And U.S. Marshals recover 11 kids in New Orleans and nobody says a word. I'm Jay Edgar and this is Contemporary. Good morning, folks, and welcome to Contemporary. My name is Jay Edgar. We've got a bunch of stuff to get to, including the fact that the news cycle changed from the time I went to bed last night until the time that I got up, so we will be discussing that. But before we get into any of this, head on over to freedomscoop.com. Freedomscoop.com is going to be your one-stop shop for all of your news and commentary needs. We carry great shows such as The Daily Ignoramus, The Generational Gap. Check them out tonight. Check Daily Ignoramus out tonight as well, because both of them will be streaming later on tonight. We also carry The Breakdown with Birkenhoff, set to stream a little bit later on today, The R-Rated Conservative, and The Freckles and Brit Show. So, come on over, check us out over there, pick up some of our swag, and help us support great creators. All right, let's get into the stocks news. Well, before we get into the stocks news, make sure that if you are in the chat today, that you get your messages out, because today is the day that I read the names and thank everybody who watched the program and was kindly enough to get their names out there so I could. And I've got my notebook here full of names of everybody who chatted throughout the week here. So everybody will get a name and a shout out. And once again, this channel is going to start growing at some point. I know we're going to have a little bit of a meeting over a little bit of marketing over the weekend, so the channel's going to grow at some point. At some point I'm not going to be able to do this, but I want to make sure that those of you who were the OGs that got in on the bottom of this program and chatted and carried us through and put news stories in the live chat and everything else get the proper things that you deserve. So make sure you get your message out there. In fact, let me get the live chat up here so I can see what we've got going on here. Yeah, today is not the day to lurk, I can tell you that. All right, let's see what we have over in stocks news for the day. From the Dow, looks like we had a pretty rocky day throughout everything. A little bit down, a little bit down, a little bit down off the futures. A little bit below the close, back below and above. But from everything I've read so far with the announcement that we're going to be talking about, which the beans are going to be spilled at the point that I get to reading about the stocks. We'll see what's happening there, but it looks like the Dow fell big time over the main announcement here. So let's see what the investors have to say from that. Starting with Investors Business Daily, Dow Jones futures tumble as President Trump tests positive for coronavirus. Tesla reports deliveries, jobs report due. From Ed Carson. Dow Jones futures fell sharply early Friday, along with S&P 500 futures and NASDAQ futures after President Trump tested positive for the coronavirus just 1 month before Election Day. That's right, folks, 31 days today. That comes amid ongoing stimulus talks and ahead of the August jobs report. Tesla reported third quarter deliveries. President Trump tweeted shortly after the midnight that he and First Lady Melania Trump tested positive for COVID-19 and were both quarantined tonight. Flotus and I tested positive for COVID-19. We will begin our quarantine and recovery process immediately. We will get through this together. President Trump and Melania took coronavirus tests after White House aide Hope Hicks, who had recently traveled with Trump, tested positive for COVID-19. The White House said that Trump and his wife are well at this time. President Trump is 74 years old, putting him at higher risk for the coronavirus. Democratic nominee Joe Biden, 77, will also be tested. Trump and Biden debated Tuesday night. More broadly, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell is 78 and House Speaker Pelosi is 80. Trump has canceled all public events, including a Florida rally on Friday. Normal quarantine protocol could keep him isolated for 10 days. Yeah, I had a story that was ready to go on the stack before all this happened. Ready to go for the morning to say that President Trump he was going to be coming over not only to Wisconsin, he was going to be in Janesville, which is not that far away from where I'm sitting right now. I mean, Janesville is so close to me, that's where I actually go and do all my shopping. And unless I need meat, I go to a different town for that. But where I go to do all my main shopping is in Janesville. So that's how close he was going to be to me. That's also an interesting note on that too. Is Janesville was where he was. I don't know if you guys remember the 2015, 2016 election cycle because that was 1,000 fucking years ago. But that was also where the president was when that 15-year-old girl punched the 80-year-old guy in the face at the hotel parking lot during the Trump rally and then got pepper sprayed. And the news media only saw that she got pepper sprayed. They conveniently forgot that she punched the dude in the face beforehand. That was also in Janesville. I don't know if it was going to be the same venue or not. I hadn't had a chance to look into the story yet, but it caught my attention just as I was getting ready to come home last night. Vice President Mike Pence and his wife tested negative for the coronavirus following Trump's COVID-19 diagnosis. And we're going to go straight into the futures from this. Stock market futures tumbled over the Trump coronavirus news. Dow Jones fell 1.35% versus fair value. S&P 500 futures sank 1.5%. NASDAQ 100 futures lost 2.15%. That suggests that half or more of this week's solid stock market gains could be wiped out at Friday's open. Probably. Treasury yields and crude oil futures also fell sharply. Remember, pre-market action in Dow futures and elsewhere doesn't necessarily translate into actual trading in the next regular stock market session. All right, so yeah, they spilled the beans for the top story off of this, but definitely something that's going to affect the markets because they hate uncertainty and we don't know what is going to happen in 31 days. Let's see what CNBC has to say. Dow futures fall more than 300 points after Trump says he tested positive for coronavirus. From Yoon Lee, Eustace Wang, and Pippa Stevens. Dow futures dropped Friday after President Trump and First Lady Melania tested positive for the coronavirus. Futures tied to the Dow Jones Industrial Average lost 340 points. The move indicated an opening loss of about 300 points. The S&P 500 futures fell 1.3%. The NASDAQ 100 futures declined 2.1%. The president's diagnosis added more uncertainty to the election, an event that was already waiting on the market and keeping traders on edge. As they attempted to evaluate the possible outcomes, shares of stocks tied to the economy reopening fell in pre-market trading, as the news highlighted the risk of a second wave of coronavirus and raised fears that maybe lawmakers would slow the pace at which they relaxed the coronavirus measures. Yeah, unfortunately, I've been hearing a lot of news about a big uptick in my state. Once again, Rock County is completely unaffected, as it has been through everything that we see. Mostly seeing things come out of Dane County and Milwaukee County, but that's where people are stacked up on top of each other. But, yep, we've been seeing an uptick definitely in this state, but it's also getting really, really cold, so we're getting to the regular flu season as well. All right. Investors will debate the implications this has for the stimulus, reopening, and the election, wrote Vital Knowledge's Adam Crisafulli in a note. Politically speaking, the Trump diagnosis, like the debate, is affirming and likely cements Biden's poll lead. Really? That's what you took out of that debate? White House physician Dr. Sean Conley sent a memo. The president and first lady were both well at the time, and they plan to remain at home within the White House during their convalescence. Conley also said he expects Trump to continue carrying out his duties without disruption while recovering. Yeah, I don't think he's going to be able to go to the war room because that seems like a coronavirus-infested nightmare if he gets down there. So there's a lot of things that could go along with this. But yeah, that's what we're seeing out of the stocks news, and it's all the diagnosis. So we're going to move off the stocks at this point and move on to Twitter. Because I figured he was the one that made the announcement. He is the one that gets to come out and make it out to my program as well. 8 hours ago, Donald J. Trump, at Real Donald Trump. Tonight, at Flotus and I tested positive for COVID-19. We will begin our quarantine and recovery process immediately. We will get through this together. Because he found the caps lock key again. And there were, of course, some blue checks on Twitter that were less than kind about this. We had Guang Cheng that says God bless you, which is kind, but we also have TJ Patricia that says, I thought it was called the Chinese plague. Pretty sure I heard someone say that. Lily Zapp, Trump girl, is sending prayers. So that's what some of the commentary is. But yeah, I've got another article here that pretty much tells you about the fact that a lot of blue check Twitter is pretty pissed about this. or pretty gloaty, or one of the two. So let's move off of this one. Let's get on down through. From Fox News, President Trump, First Lady test positive for coronavirus, set to quarantine at the White House, from Brooke Singman. President Trump announced early Friday that both he and the First Lady Melania Trump tested positive for COVID-19 and will quarantine at the White House. Tonight, Ed Flotus and I tested positive for COVID-19. And we read the tweet already. So, a White House source told Fox News shortly after the president's tweet that he and the First Lady are fine and are in quarantine process at the White House. Melania tweets out, "As too many Americans have done this year, Ed POTUS and I are quarantining at home after testing positive for COVID-19. We are feeling good and I have postponed all upcoming engagements. Please be sure you are staying safe and we will all get through this together." Dr. Sean Conley, the president's physician, also confirmed the Trump and First Lady's positive COVID-19 diagnosis. I didn't want to open that way, but that's fine. We'll do that. Memorandum for Caleb and Kennedy from Sean Conley. Subject, President Trump. I released the following information with permission of the President. This evening I received confirmation that both President Trump and First Lady Melania have tested positive for SARS-CoV-2 virus. The President and First Lady are both well at this time, and they plan to remain at home within the White House during their convalescence. The White House medical team and I will maintain a vigilant watch, and I appreciate the support provided by some of our country's greatest medical professionals and institutions. Rest assured, I expect the President to continue carrying out his duties without disruption while recovering, and I will keep you updated on any future developments. So that is the press release from Sean Conley. Brooke Singman, a memo from President Trump's physician. Out there, that's the tweet. So, it looks like off the Fox News... Well, okay, here we go. Here's a little bit more. According to a source familiar, Hicks, who had been traveling with the president this week, began showing symptoms of coronavirus Wednesday night, either during or after Trump's Duluth campaign event. She was quarantined aboard Air Force One on the way back and tested positive on Thursday morning, the source said. Hope Hicks, who has been working so hard without even taking a small break, has just tested positive for COVID-19. Terrible. The First Lady and I are waiting on our test results. In the meantime, we will begin our quarantine process. So, I mean, he was on top of this. And they have to be. I know that he's been tested a number of times, but the other thing to note is the fact that, I mean, everybody over on The View and places like that thought that he already had this because they were crowing about it. Every time a Secret Service agent got diagnosed with it, they started crowing about it. Oh, well, the president's going to get it. He's going to die. He's there. That's my Joy Behar impression. They're all excited about the fact that, and there are a lot of other people that are excited about this too. I'm in a tweet group, and I'm not going to reveal anybody, but one member of the tweet group told us, because she's over on the West Coast, that those of us in the rest of the country are going to be waking up to a Twitter dumpster fire, which... I mean, it's a Twitter dumpster fire every day, so I don't know what the difference would be. But, yes, we did wake up to that. I have yet to see any of the tweets. I've seen people being unclassy about it, but I have yet to see any of the tweets in question. I didn't really look through Twitter all that much when I got up. Basically, I was going through Instagram when I first rolled over and saw the news, and that's what led me down the rabbit hole to come and find this. So... Hope Hicks got it, and now the president may have it as well. And now they're going and testing Biden because of the debate. So we will see what happens with this and where this goes. Let's keep going. That's the breaking 911 that I read a bit ago. From the Daily Wire, ex-staffers for Obama, Hillary, Warren appear to attack Trump over COVID-19. I hope he dies. From Daily Wire News. Ex-staffers for the former President Barack Obama and for the failed presidential campaigns of Hillary Clinton and Elizabeth Warren appeared to mock and attack President Trump on Thursday night following the news that he had contracted COVID-19. We read the tweet. We read Sean Conley's letter. We can skip over that. Let's get into the meat of this one here. Zara Rahim, a former Obama administration official who also worked on Clinton's presidential campaign, appeared to reference the president's diagnosis on Twitter, writing, "It's been against my moral identity to tweet this for the past 4 years, but I hope he, and with stars, dies." And then Ian Miles Chong was the one that reported that out here. Zara Rahim used to work for Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama. There's a screenshot of the tweet, which I'm sure is going to be deleted soon. Rahim also retweeted someone who wrote "no" in response to the following tweet from MSNBC's Rachel Maddow. "God bless the President and First Lady. If you pray, please pray for their speedy and complete recovery and for everyone infected everywhere. This virus is horrific and merciless. No one would wish its wrath on anyone. We must get it spread under control enough." So, Maddow was classy about this. Rahim added, "Two thoughts. I'm totally blown away by the almost instant conspiracy theories coming from the left. I don't get the upside of faking positive results 33 days before the election if he's interested in a second term, announcing quarantine to a base who think COVID is fake. Why? Let me be clear, I put absolutely nothing out of the realm of possibility with this fucker, but as a strategist, maybe I am blind to the fuckery." Classy. Classy, Zara. Former Obama official Andy Slivet, just before Trump announced that he had the virus, he must be quarantined because he doesn't want to pass the hoax on to anybody else. Former Warren campaign staffer Max Berger wrote, praying our president doesn't die from the preventable illness that he inflicted upon millions of Americans. Jesus Christ. Oh my God. Berger also tweets, "I can't think of anything more distasteful than wishing death upon another human, except maybe causing preventable mass death, because you don't want to damage the stock market or your re-election chances," Berger continued. "All jokes aside, I hope the president injects himself with bleach." Yeah, that's a reportable tweet, by the way, just so you know. That is suggesting self-harm to somebody else. Report that one. Berger tweets, "Finally, Trump did this to himself. He inflicted the same misfortune upon millions of others. He's a corrupt, white supremacist criminal who's responsible for more American deaths than 9/11 and the wars in Vietnam, Korea, Iraq, and World War II combined. No one should feel bad for him." I hope everyone will respond to the news that Trump has the virus with the same amount of tact and compassion he would show to you. Dude, this guy is on a fucking roll. Yeah, I can't read any more of this one here. Otherwise, Wojcicki will think that I'm the one that's tweeting it out and will shut my channel down. But yeah, some of this is definitely reportable. And I'm sure that nothing will happen because Max Berger's got a blue check. What is he even famous for? Why does he have a blue check? Other than making fun of the president. Anyway, let's move on from that. I thought for sure that the Daily Wire would have much, much more from that, but we will see. Coming in from Fox News, Trump kept a busy schedule, including debate with Biden before testing positive for the coronavirus, from Bree Stimson. President Trump kept a busy schedule for the last week of September, crisscrossing the country for campaign rallies, facing off with Democratic nominee Joe Biden in a debate and tending to the everyday duties of his office. But early Friday morning, the president confirmed that he and the First Lady have tested positive for the coronavirus, necessitating them to quarantine in the White House until they recover. Questions now remain about how and when and from whom the president contracted the virus. Who cares? Seriously. There are 2 million confirmed cases, so-called. Because of some of the fuckery that we saw from Florida, I don't believe that, but at this point, according to the new statistics, there are 2 million confirmed cases. If this is really as transmissible as everybody says, and as asymptomatic as everybody says, there's probably 5 million more around the country. This is going through the population. We are going through herd immunity at this point. Who cares who you get it from at this point? It doesn't matter. Sit it out, wait it out, go to the hospital if you need to, and get on with your life. Contact tracing. That if we're actually at pandemic status with this, that should be the last thing on anybody's mind is contact tracing. I don't understand it. Those answers will have to wait for now, but the president's schedule before he tested positive may offer some clues. Trump and the First Lady were tested for the virus Thursday, soon after White House aide Hope Hicks, who had been feeling sick, tested positive, but that doesn't necessarily mean Trump caught it from her. That's a crow. On Monday, Trump held two White House events, a South Lawn event for Lordstown Motors that was attended by two Congress members, and a separate announcement in the Rose Garden about the planned distribution of millions of coronavirus test kits. Vice President Mike Pence, other administration officials, members of Congress, and state officials attended. On Tuesday, Trump and Biden met for their first presidential debate in Cleveland. The indoor debate was socially distanced but maskless, meaning Biden would likely need to be tested. As of 5 a.m. Friday, Biden's campaign had not yet spoken about the president's positive test or whether the former vice president will be tested. Excuse me. Hicks traveled with the president and other White House staff on Air Force One to the debate. Melania, Trump's adult children, and senior staff, who largely didn't wear masks during the debate in violation of hosting Cleveland Clinic's rules, also traveled with him. The campaign on Wednesday flew to Minnesota for both private fundraiser at home in Minneapolis and a rally in Duluth. Hicks started feeling sick after the Minnesota visit and isolated herself on Air Force One. Trump flew to his Bedminster Golf Course in New Jersey on Thursday for a fundraiser the same day Hicks tested positive. Several aides who were in proximity to Hicks scrapped plans to accompany him. So, we don't know where he got it, and like I said, who gives a fuck? Nobody cares. Let the doctors do their work. Let them quarantine, and let's get on with this whole thing. All right, let's keep going here from CNBC. Trump has the coronavirus. Here's what happens next. From Sam Meredith. President Trump on Friday confirmed that he and First Lady Melania Trump had tested positive for COVID-19, prompting many to seek clarity on the procedures in place to deal with a variety of scenarios. The president, 74, who is regularly tested for COVID-19, said via Twitter that he and the First Lady would now begin their quarantine and recovery process. The development, which comes late in the run-up to the November 3rd presidential election, has raised the possibility that others at the highest levels of the U.S. government could have been exposed to the virus in recent days and may need to quarantine as well. White House physician Dr. Sean Conley said in a letter that the president and First Lady were both well at this time, and they plan to remain at home within the White House during their convalescence. What happens now? In a research note published earlier this year, John Hudak, a senior fellow and deputy director at the Brookings Institution Center for Effective Public Management, outlined some of the scenarios designed to protect the president, the integrity of the office. Oh man, there hasn't been integrity in that office since Reagan. Sorry. Sorry, I couldn't get over the irony of that one, the integrity of the presidential office. Clinton and the cigar, that's all that I have to say about that. And the continuity of government in the event of a positive COVID-19 test. Hudak said the test in itself would not be cause for emergency action. Instead, Trump would likely be able to continue his everyday activities and manage the office either undisturbed or with mild challenges. It was expected to create some challenges for those around him, however. The need for 24-hour Secret Service protection could put agents at risk for contracting it, but given modern technology, the president could quarantine and have remote or sufficiently distanced contact from most, if not all aides, including the individuals who would be involved in the president's daily brief, Hudak said. Trump's positive coronavirus test does mean other precautions need to be taken, with those in line of succession likely to be in limited contact with the president to reduce their chances of contracting the virus. Vice President Mike Pence, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, Senator Chuck Grassley, who serves in the role of the president pro tempore, making him third in line for the presidency, and members of the cabinet will all need to be isolated from the president, Hudak explained. The diagnosis will mean it's important for the president to continue to communicate with the American public, especially if he is mildly symptomatic or asymptomatic, Hudak said. Seeing the president on camera can restore faith in his wellness, calm nervous Americans, stabilize stock markets, and project to the world that the president remains well enough to execute the office. Trump's response to the coronavirus pandemic has been sharply criticized, although the president frequently hails his own management of the health crisis. At a campaign rally in Ohio last month, Trump claimed the disease affects virtually nobody. To date, the U.S. has recorded more than 7.27 million cases of the coronavirus, with 207,808 deaths related. Did you notice that? I noticed that. It is no longer 200,000 deaths. It is 200,000 related deaths. Interesting. There's some fuckery going on in the narrative. Alright. According to data compiled by Johns Hopkins, could the election be delayed? Earlier this year, the New York University law professor Richard Pildes told the Washington Post that the Republican National Committee would take control should Trump be unable to continue as Republican nominee ahead of election. Pildes said that in the event of the death of either Trump or Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden, the respective parties would need to replace the name of their candidate on each state's ballot with the name of a new candidate. However, with millions of votes already cast, others are unsure whether the solution is practical in a contested race. Oh boy. This is going to fuck a lot of stuff up. At this point, it seems impossible for candidates to come up with new names to replace the names on the ballot without starting the whole election process over, which is not possible in 30 plus days before Election Day. So, yeah, and there are contingencies in place for this too. There are always contingencies. There have been contingencies for a long time. I mean, Pence can step up if Trump needs to be bedridden for a few days. Or if he passes for whatever reason, Pence can step up. Pence will probably become the Republican nominee, but they need to vote for him to win the presidency. That's something to keep in mind. Same with Biden and Kamala. Both teams do have contingency plans in place. And that has been something that's been thought about for a while. Should both presidents die, or both nominees die right before the election, both teams do have a contingency plan in place. So that's not something to worry about. We will see what happens off of this here, but now, well, let me see. Yep. Now we are going to take some time and do the news show that I was planning right up until 11 o'clock last night. Starting with the Daily Wire. I'm tired of it. Fox News' John Roberts snaps after battle with press secretary. And I've got 3 clips from that battle. From Amanda Prestigiacomo. Fox News reporter John Roberts repeatedly accused the Trump administration of refusing to definitively denounce white supremacy during Thursday night's White House press briefing after Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany pushed back against Roberts' contrived narrative and read numerous quotes from President Trump denouncing white supremacy. Roberts then took Fox News airwaves to complain further about the White House's alleged dodging of the question and voiced his frustration with their apparent inappropriate blame of the media. People on Twitter who were hammering me asking that question, I don't care, Roberts said on Fox airwaves, clearly enraged. He asked, stop deflecting, stop blaming the media, I'm tired of it. During the press briefing, Roberts asked McEnany, I'd like to ask you for a definitive and declarative statement without ambiguity or deflection. As the person who speaks for the president, does the president denounce white supremacism? Does the president denounce white supremacism and groups that espouse it in all forms? This has been answered yesterday by the president himself, the day before by the president himself on the debate stage. The president was asked this. He said, sure, 3 times. Yesterday he was point blank asked, do you denounce white supremacy? He said, I've always denounced any form of that. The press secretary responded. I can go back for you, McEnany continued, recalling more quotes from the Trump denouncing white supremacy. Roberts, however, was not satisfied and accused the administration of dodging his question. Can you, naming it, make a declarative statement that the president denounces white supremacy? Asked the reporter. I just did, McEnany insisted. You're contriving a storyline in a narrative, and if you need to see Trump's quotes in writing, I will put them in an email. People on, let's see, we read that one in the top of the article. So, and I do have some, I believe I have that clip. If not, we'll go back to this one and check it out. But I believe I have that clip in here, and I've got a couple others from the same press briefing. I want to start with this one. Okay, no, we don't have it. I have the article that goes on to rumble.com. So let's go back to the Daily Wire and listen to this one here. All right, let's get the earpiece in. Let's get your ears on and let's have a listen.
If I could start off, I'd like to ask you for a definitive and declarative statement without ambiguity or deflection. As the person who speaks for the president, does the president denounce white supremacism and groups that espouse it in all their forms?
This has been answered yesterday by the president himself, the day before by the president himself on the debate stage. The president was asked this. He said, sure, 3 times. Yesterday, he was point blank asked, do you denounce white supremacy? And he said, I've always denounced any form of that. I can go back and read for you in August 2019, in one voice, our nation must condemn racism, bigotry, and white supremacy. In August of 2017, racism is evil, and those who cause violence in its name are criminals and thugs, including the KKK, neo-Nazis, white supremacists, and other hate groups. I have an entire list of these quotes that I can go through with you. He has condemned white supremacy more than any president in modern history.
Just to clear it up this morning, can you, naming it, make a declarative statement that you denounce, that the president denounces it?
I just did. The president has denounced this repeatedly. The president was asked this. You're contriving a storyline and a narrative.
I'm just asking you to put this to rest.
I just did. I read you all of the quotes, and if you need to see them in writing, I will put them in an email. Hold on.
So, Kayleigh, can you right now denounce white supremacy and the groups that espouse it?
The president has denounced white supremacy, the KKK, and hate groups in all forms. He signed a resolution to that effect. The president just last week, perhaps you all weren't covering it, but just last week expressed his desire to see the KKK prosecuted as domestic terrorists. This president had advocated for the death penalty for a white supremacist, the first federal execution in 17 years. His record on this is unmistakable, and it's shameful that the media
Sorry about that. I forgot that I turned the microphone off because I really need to oil this chair because it squeaks like crazy. But that's what we're hearing from the press briefing off of this. But that wasn't the only thing that we saw from this particular press briefing. I turn now to CBS News talking about, and this is... Hold on, let me turn that off for just a sec. This is just peak stupidity. Their biggest problem right now with any of this... Let me shut the messages down here. Their biggest problem with any of this is the fact that they used a common phrase. Did you even know that there was a Rhodes University? Anybody out there? And that's where the name Rhodes Scholar came from? Because as far as I knew, I didn't realize that until yesterday when numerous outlets fact-checked this. Let's have a listen.
I had a question about unemployment, but I first wanted to clean up something from your opening. You said Judge Barrett was a Rhodes Scholar. I'm not sure that that's true.
That's what I have written here.
She attended Rhodes College.
Attended Rhodes College, so my bad.
Very different thing.
Yes.
All right.
If you say somebody that's a Rhodes Scholar, you're usually just saying that that person is very smart and graduated at the top of a class of anywhere. That's a turn of phrase in our society. But they had to fact check it. That is peak 2020 election right there. All right, let's see. We have the Bongino one, but that's another article. We had one other one here because they were talking about the ballots in the river, and the hashtag is hashtag Where's the River, Kayleigh? So let's have a listen to this one.
The president has criticized the mail-in voting process quite a bit over the last few weeks. The other day he said they found a lot of ballots in a river. Who is they?
What the president was referring to are something that we've seen just in the last 7 days, where in Wisconsin there were trails of May ending up in a ditch. That's, I believe, the specific he was referring to, and that included absentee ballots.
We're specifically, in this particular statement, though, Who is they that found those ballots, and where is this river anywhere in this country?
The local authorities. It was a ditch in Wisconsin that they were found, and I can get the article to your inbox if you'd like. And beyond
That's
that,
fine. If he misspoke, that's fine.
No,
So
that's-
he meant
I
a
believe
ditch, he meant
that's what the
a
president
ditch
was
rather than
referring
a river.
to. And you're missing the forest for the trees here. The point is,
No, I cover the
The
news,
point
and I
is-
like to report accurately in the news. And
You're-
when the president says they found a lot of ballots in a river, I simply want to know where the river is.
no, you simply want to ignore the fact of the matter. Again,
I got asked so many questions
allow me to
about this,
respond.
and my
Allow me to
Fox
respond.
affiliates, where is this river?
Allow
And I
me
can't
to
give them an
respond to you.
accurate information,
Allow me
and
to
that's why
respond.
I'm asking you.
This is what is happening here. You are ignoring the problem here, which is last week in Pennsylvania, you had ballots found in a ditch. That is a fact. In Wisconsin, 7 military ballots, all marked for Trump, were found cast aside. There are problems with mass mail-in voting. I actually don't understand the lack of journalistic curiosity and reporting on this. There used to be curiosity. In
Where's
fact,
the
the
river?
Washington Post, before President Trump highlighted the problems with mail-in voting, they said the result was an unexpected stress test of mail balloting systems when this was tried, many of which were designed to handle only a small portion of the vote and are not ready to scale up in response to the pandemic. So the media once said mail-in voting is not ready to scale up in the middle of a pandemic. Now there's no journalistic curiosity when we're finding Trump
He's asking
ballots
you about it.
cast aside. There's no journalistic curiosity when
I'm asking you where the river is, and you can't give an
were
answer.
sent out in
If you
Brooklyn.
say the
They
president
were
meant a
inaccurate
ditch,
ballots, and then
then say you meant a
100,000
ditch.
more.
I just want to know where the river is.
Filibustering and lack of journalistic curiosity.
I'm
Yes.
very curious. Where's the river?
Yes.
That's curiosity.
Keely, Senator Tim Scott.
So, and that is that. Where's the river? Where's the river? Where's the river? Never mind the fact that why are we finding stuff discarded like that? I mean, McKennedy was absolutely right on this one. But of course, the masked blue Texan, progressive Tex over on Twitter, was focusing on the other side of this and trying to make McKennedy and the president look as piss poor as possible. So, that's what we saw from that. We'll talk about that on Monday, I think. Maybe. We've got debate coverage and the COVID-19 diagnosis to talk about on Monday, so this may have also just changed everything that I planned for the Monday show. Anyway, let's keep going. So, the New York Post reported this. This was yesterday. U.S. Navy SEALs change creed statement to become gender neutral from Mark Moore. The U.S. Navy SEALs have changed their creed statement to become gender neutral, have eliminated terms such as brotherhood, according to a report. Naval special warfare continues to deliberately develop a culture of tactical and ethical excellence that reflects the nations we represent, and that draws upon the talents of all volunteer force who meet the standards of qualification as a SEAL or SWCC, Naval Special Warfare spokesman Lieutenant Commander Matthew Stroop told American Military News. One change addresses the first paragraph of the SEAL ethos. Instead of a common man with uncommon desire to succeed, it now says common citizens with uncommon desire to succeed. Another alters I am that man to I am that warrior. Brotherhood has been changed to a group of maritime warriors. The final line of the statement has been modified from brave men who have fought and died, building the proud tradition and feared reputation that I am bound to uphold, to brave SEALs. Stroop said the previous version of the SEAL ethos and Special Warfare Combatant Crewman creed were written before the law allowed women to serve in the commando groups. The changes do not in any way reflect lowering the standards of entry. Rather, they ensure that all of those who meet the requirements to train to become a SEAL or SWCC are represented in the ethos or creed that they live out, he said. This improves the posture of the NSW force by ensuring that we draw from the greatest pool of talent available. So, I've got a couple things to go along with this. Now, I don't mind that they do this. I really don't. It's the military. I didn't join, unfortunately. I'm looking back at that with regret in my life at this point, but I can't shape military service, the creed, or anything else because I didn't join the military. But somebody else who did join the military did point out, this was in my Instagram timeline, I believe, somebody who was in the Navy pointed out the fact that before they start changing the language like this, they should probably have a woman who is capable of going through the SEAL training and passing, because they have yet to have that. Now, it may happen at one point. I don't know. The article says that they don't plan on lowering the threshold for that. And I hope that they don't, because I'm hoping that everybody who goes into a situation that they send a SEAL into, whether man or woman, has the capability that being a SEAL demands. They've put in a pretty stringent training regimen, and the people who pass it can go up and be SEALs. I am not a trad by any means whatsoever. If a woman wants to go and be a SEAL and she can go through the training regimen that was prescribed by the SEALs, if she can make it, all power to her. Absolutely. As long as they don't lower the bar for her, all the more power to her if she wants to do it. But at the point that they start bringing women into that, that's probably when they would probably start changing the language. Otherwise, right now, this just seems like a lot of posturing. And, of course, the president had to weigh on this because he says stuff. Trump pledges to overturn Navy SEAL gender-neutral ethos, calls it ridiculous. From Thomas Barabi. President Trump planned Thursday to reverse an initiative by U.S. Navy SEALs to make its ethos statement gender-neutral. The Navy SEALs and Special Warfare Combatant Craft Crewmen, that's a mouthful, recently altered their ethos and creed statements to remove gender-specific references. American Military News reported earlier this week words such as man and brotherhood were replaced with gender-neutral phrases such as warrior and group of maritime warriors. I will be overturning this ridiculous order immediately, Trump tweeted. The White House declined to comment. You know what, President Bone Spurs, you should probably sit this one out too. And like I mentioned, the focus for the military should be finishing up the ridiculous wars that we have over in the Middle East and getting the fuck out of there. And not what the language in their creed says. We've kind of got a difference of priority here. I want to see troops come home, so you guys need to finish whatever the hell it is you're still doing over there. And you want to change wording and language. One of these things is not like the other. One of these things is greater than the other. So, that's what we'll see off of that one here. But once again, just like I said, I really can't say whether or not this is a proper idea because I didn't join the Navy or any other military branch. I'm pretty sure that President Bone Spurs needs to sit this one out too. All right. From the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel. I look back at one of my old videos, one of my old contemporary episodes, and realized that for the entire episode, and this was one of those days where I didn't get enough sleep and came up and tried to do contemporary the next morning, I kept saying Milwaukee Journey Sentinel. But this is not the Journey Sentinel, this is the Journal Sentinel. Madison voters asked judge to ensure the counting of ballots collected at Democracy in the Park events. From Patrick Marley. 5 voters asked a judge on Wednesday to rule that absentee ballots Madison poll workers are collecting in more than 200 parks will be counted. Madison on Saturday held its first Democracy in the Park event, despite accusations from Republicans that the program was improper. It probably was, changing the rules once again at the very last minute, and wondering why nothing is going right. The city plans to do the same again this Saturday. 5 supporters of the plan on Wednesday asked Dane County Circuit Judge Mario White to declare the event a valid way for voters to return their completed absentee ballots. You can go to the courthouse, you know that, right? You can mask up and go to the courthouse. City Clerk Maribeth Witzel Bell scheduled the event to help deal with a flood of absentee ballots that voters have requested because of the coronavirus pandemic. The city hasn't yet installed ballot drop boxes. That's a good fucking idea. And some voters are reluctant to return their absentee ballots by mail because of slowdowns with the U.S. Postal Service, Witzel Bell said last week. So, you weren't concerned enough to order a mail-in ballot, an absentee ballot, but you're concerned enough now to send it back. It seems that you didn't think this process through. I don't trust a fucking piece of this anywhere, but apparently it's legal. Late last week, an attorney for Republican lawmakers raised objections to the event, claiming they were illegal. They're probably not illegal, but they're probably just a stupid idea, and argued absentee ballots submitted at them could be invalidated. The voters who brought Wednesday's lawsuit dispute those claims and wants the judge to assure voters that their absentee ballots will be counted. More than 10,000 absentee ballots were returned at the first event, according to the city. Really? 10,000 absentee ballots in Madison in one weekend, and they're planning on doing this again. All right. Let's move on from this one here. From OAN. I think this is a first for me using OAN, but this passed NewsGuard. This is the first time I've used OAN on this program. President Trump receives third nomination for Nobel Peace Prize. Thank you to Ron Helton in the chat for bringing this to my attention in the chat yesterday. I do read the chat after the program, so I know what you guys are saying. And thank you to Ron for reminding me of this, because this completely went past. This completely got memory hold for me for a few days. I just kept finding more and more news, especially with the debate going on, and I completely overlooked this one a few times. So, from the OAN newsroom, President Trump has been nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize 3 times, according to reports. The third and latest nomination came from a group of Australian law professors. One member of that group, David Flint, said the president is deserving of the highly sought-after award based on his long list of achievements. What he has done with the Trump doctrine is he has decided he would no longer have America involved in endless wars, he said. Wars which achieve nothing but the killing of thousands of young Americans, enormous debts imposed on America, and nothing solved in the countries in which it is carried on. But it has enriched members of Congress, so that's why they keep going. Raytheon and Halliburton and all these other fun organizations that make tanks and missiles and buy politicians. This goes hand in hand with the president's recent historic peace deal between Israel and the United Arab Emirates. President Trump initiated the talks between the two, despite the expert advice, warning against the ambitious goal of seeking peace in the Middle East. He negotiated against all advice, but he did it with common sense, directly with the Arab states concerned, and brought them together, added Flint. The states are lining up, Arab and Middle Eastern, to join that network of peace which will dominate the Middle East. Until we get another Clinton shill into the White House as commander-in-chief, who will bend down and suck off the politicians in Congress and the Senate that are getting massive amounts of money from Raytheon and Halliburton, and we go back and start another war. Or, alternatively, a rogue Secretary of State, let's call him John Kerry, hypothetically, goes out and whispers in Saudi Arabia's ears, Hey, you know what? The UAE called your mama whore. So, that's what we're seeing from that there. That's 3. For actually doing something, in stark contrast to Obama getting the Nobel Peace Prize for pretty much being Barack Obama. All right, let's keep going here. From 10 News, Joe Biden nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize because, hey, if the Donald's going to get one, then Joe wants his too. This does not give me an author. Joe Biden has been nominated for the 2020 Nobel Peace Prize 2 weeks away from the next presidential debate. Yeah, that's not going to happen anymore. A member of parliament in the UK, Chris Bryant, told the Evening Standard he nominated Biden for not resorting to violent solutions and using positive speech. He hid in his basement. What solutions does he have? The only solution that Biden has had that I've seen on the campaign trail at this point is doing a push-up contest instead of resorting to fisticuffs. And yes, I said fisticuffs, and I'm going to own that too. When others have resorted to violent solutions, he has argued that the best force is the force of argument, Bryant told The Standard, because guns can stop a heart, but well-placed words can change many hearts, and many hearts can change a world. Meanwhile, Biden's political opponent, Donald Trump, has received 3 nominations in September, with the most recent from an Australian law professor who nominated him on Monday, Sky News reports. Yeah, that was pretty much, the nomination for Biden was pretty much the same as the nomination for Obama. Get the nomination for not doing anything but being a Democrat. And in Biden's case, I'm probably standing opposed to Trump. Good job, England. All right. I've got cringe-ass video to go with this one, too. From The Blaze, Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot dresses up as Rona Destroyer to lay out Halloween guidelines. From Breck Dumas, Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot donned a superhero costume during a Halloween-themed press conference on Thursday, dressing up as the Rona Destroyer to roll out the city's COVID-19 restrictions for the popular holiday. Before speaking, Lightfoot stood before the lectern with fellow coronavirus-fighting fictional superhero Public Health Commissioner Dr. Allison Arwady, and the two flexed their muscles to pose before the cameras while carrying pails full of candy. The mayor wore a cape that read Rona Destroyer as she handed out goodies to members of the press pool. The mayor announced that trick-or-treating would be allowed, but that the people are asked to stay on the move in groups of 6 people or fewer, avoid sticking their hands into candy bowls, and wait until they get home and wash their hands to eat the candy, the Chicago Tribune reported. And in case you think that the description of this isn't cringy enough, Chris Lokes, over on Twitter, who is a friend of the show, check him out, Real Mr. Behavior over on Twitter, provided me with a Daily Caller tweet for the video of this, and yes, it is as cringy as you think. Let's have a listen and a look.
So guess what we're here to talk about today?
Yes, it really was that cringe. Absolutely. So, yeah, I get it. Oh. Imagine Lori Lightfoot trying to look personable after all the bullshit that she's done over the past few months in Chicago. You could protest, just not in front of my house. And now I'm the Rona Destroyer. This is peak. All right. I got, let's see. I got 4 more here, and then we will read the names of everybody who chatted in the live chat. Thank you, by the way, everybody, in advance. Let's see. House passes partisan $2.2 trillion COVID-19 relief bill without GOP support. Of course they did, because nobody wants to spend any more money. And I've pointed this out numerous times. First off, if you took your check, your coronavirus relief check, and cashed it, or got it direct deposited, as I pointed out to Shearer out of Texas, I can't think what, Elliot Shearer out of Texas, who is running as a libertarian, if you took that check and cashed it, you don't get to complain about the national debt, because this is going to add to the national debt once again. I cut my check up, and I get to complain about it, because I didn't take that money. It's blood money, and they don't have any money to cover the check that they sent out. But they want to do another one. From Eric Quintanar, House Democrats passed a $2.2 trillion coronavirus relief package on Wednesday evening without any Republican support, and with more than a dozen Democrats voting against it. The vote on the partisan package comes as negotiations on a bipartisan deal between the House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin remain ongoing and uncertain. The legislation, the largest spending bill since the Democrat-endorsed $3.4 trillion HEROES Act, managed to receive even less support from Democrats in conservative-leaning districts, many of whom were concerned about passing a bill without GOP support, reported the New York Times, a former newspaper. House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy derided the Democrats for not committing to a spending bill with bipartisan support and accused them of and Pelosi of not being serious about helping Americans. No, she's not. She just wants to throw a bunch of money out there and then hold the American people hostage until they vote for her and her people. Kevin McCarthy, let's listen to this, as long as I got the audio on already. Wait, really? Never mind. We're not going to do this. I didn't realize that was a Periscope link. Pay no attention to who votes for this bill tonight. It would hand out taxpayer-funded checks to illegal immigrants while removing $600 million in funding for law enforcement. Yeah, that's the other thing too. And I haven't read the bill yet, but I do have to wonder how much pork is laden in this $2.2 trillion disaster. And why does it always have to be in the trillions of dollars in long terms? Can't we go week to week on this and figure out what we need on an ongoing basis rather than doing something that's going to last for 6 months at a time? Again, I don't understand why we do this. In total, 18 House Democrats voted against the legislation and no Republicans voted in favor of it. However, roll call reports that the largely symbolic package could have been derailed and had 10 absent GOP lawmakers voted against it. According to Politico, many House Democrats expressed frustration with the negotiation process and personally texted Pelosi Thursday, urging her to take up Mnuchin on the Trump administration's $1.6 trillion coronavirus package offer, which he made earlier this week. And he also doesn't have the money to cover. Republicans have put forward a serious offer, and I think leadership should stay at the table and get this across the finish line, said Congressman Ben McAdams. On Thursday, reports Politico, it's a serious offer and a good faith offer, and it feels like we are close. This is going nowhere, and we know it's going nowhere. This is just a vote to make people feel good, said Congresswoman Cindy Axne of Iowa. Of the Democratic-backed coronavirus legislation, reported the news agency. I want to help people, and that means sitting at the table and getting the damn deal done. So, I mean, there are a lot of Democrats that are pissed off about this one. But for the most part, yes, they're going to sit back and spend your money. And Pelosi just wants more. And this bill is probably going to be laden with pork. I have to take ignorance on this one because I haven't read it. But I saw the HEROES Act. And I can't imagine that this one, too, isn't laden with as much pork as they can stuff into it. Because that's what people like Pelosi do. Why can't we have single-issue bills? That should be an amendment. That's an amendment I think the American people could get behind. Single-issue bills. Take a record of that. All right, 3 more. From the blaze, U.S. Marshals rescue 11 missing runaway children in New Orleans. 2 boys were in extreme danger. From Paul Saka. In Operation Summer Rescue 2020, the U.S. Marshals Service focused on tracking down missing runaway children originally from New Orleans. During the 2-month operation funded by the agency's Missing Child Unit, U.S. Marshals rescued 11 endangered children, including 2 boys, who were reportedly in extreme danger. Of the 11 children located, one of them was a 16-year-old boy who was found in New Orleans. Authorities believe the teen was involved in illegal gang activity, including the possession of firearms. U.S. Marshals tracked down a missing 13-year-old girl who was found in Nashville, Tennessee. The recovery of the girl included the assistance of the U.S. Marshals Service in the Middle District Tennessee Task Force, Metro Nashville Police Department, and the FBI New Orleans Field Office, according to the U.S. Marshals press release. Operation Summer Rescue 2020, which took place between August 1st through September 30th, also made several arrests during the rescues. An adult male was arrested for aggravated statutory rape. Wow. Those are words that you don't want to hear together. A mother wanted on first-degree murder warrant out of Mississippi was apprehended. She allegedly murdered her 11-year-old son at a hotel in Laurel, Mississippi. U.S. Marshals recovered her 2 other sons, aged 6 and 9, who were considered to be in extreme danger, and an Amber Alert had been issued for them. This is a very important mission that the USMS has been tasked by Congress to oversee, as the safety of the children across the country is paramount to this nation's future. said U.S. Marshal for the Eastern District of Louisiana, Scott Illing. While 11 recoveries may not seem high, this work, which is time-consuming, was accomplished while also running our normal day-to-day violent felony offender investigations and sex offender fugitive operations in the district, along with our other judicial missions. In the past month and a half, U.S. Marshal Service has rescued nearly 100 missing and endangered children. Last week, the U.S. Marshals reported that they had rescued 35 missing children during Operation Safety Net in Ohio. So, good on them. And absolutely, if we're going to have police, that includes local, county, state, FBI, and marshals, they might as well be doing something good. And I'm no fan of the non-existent drug war. I'm no fan of petty small potato embezzlement crimes or anything that has no victim to it. I'm no fan of legislation and enforcement of any of those laws. We need to have a lot less laws. Well, I guess embezzlement would be theft and that has a victim, but all in all, we need to have a lot fewer laws in this country because, I mean, you're walking down the road every day, they say break 3 federal laws. Just walking, going to work every day. But if we're going to have these organizations, they might as well be doing something good, like recovering these missing children. Good on them. Good on them, 100%. All right, I got kind of a stupid one here for you before we get really, really stupid. And we've got 2 more, so if you want to get your name read in the live chat at the end of the show, now would be the time, especially if you've been lurking, to get your message into the live chat. So head on in there, and after this one, I want to see all your stickers too. From KMOV4, Irish court rules Subway loaves are too sugary to be called bread. From Jack Guy. Bread in Subway's hot sandwiches contains too much sugar to meet Ireland's legal definition for bread, the country's Supreme Court has ruled. Yeah, we're sitting over here worrying about the pandemic, the economy, passing another relief bill, and giving away money to other people. Ireland's Supreme Court is ruling on whether or not Subway's bread is actually cake. The judgment handed down on Tuesday in response to a Subway franchisee who had appealed for a tax refund, arguing that its bread is a staple food and therefore subject to a 0% tax rate. 5 judges considered the case, determining that Subway bread has too much sugar in it to be part of this category and is therefore subject to a higher tax. The bread supplied by Subway in its heated sandwiches has sugar content of 10% of the weight of the flour included in the dough, Justice Donald O'Donnell said when delivering the judgment. Under Ireland's Tax Act of 1972, the sugar content should not exceed 2% of the weight of flour in the dough. O'Donnell rejected the arguments from the franchisee, Bookfinders Ltd., and ruled that the resulting product falls outside the definition of bread for the purposes of the Act. No, I'm not joking with you. That is actually what they ruled on. The bread in Subway is not a staple. Now, we have it differently over here. That changes state to state too. Like prepared food in most states, I think at this point, is subject to tax just for being prepared food. The labor to go in with it, I think, is how they justify it. But I guess over in Ireland, if it's a staple food, then they can go non-tax on it. But yeah, Subway is cake, apparently. A spokesperson for Subway said in a statement to CNN, Subway's bread is of course bread. We have been baking bread fresh in our restaurants for more than 3 decades, and our guests return each day for sandwiches made on bread that smells as good as it tastes. Now, I couldn't tell you the last time I actually had a Subway sandwich on bread. I couldn't tell you, I could tell you the last time I had a Subway sandwich, but I had it in a wrap to try and limit some of the carbs because, I mean, the low carb thing is working for me to an extent. But the last time I had a Subway sandwich was in, Steven, if you're in the chat, where were we? I think we were in North Carolina coming back from Florida, and we stopped at a Subway. I think it was North Carolina. Maybe it was South Carolina. I don't know. But yeah, that was the last time, was when I went down to Florida and hung out with John and Sully and Steven and Robert and everybody else over on the Freedom Scoop side. Well, not everybody, but a bunch of people over on the Freedom Scoop side. So that was the last time I had a Subway sandwich, and it was on a wrap, and it was delicious, by the way. But yes, Subway is cake. All right. And the last one here. So at the top of this one now, get those stickers in there because I want to see all those stickers. And if you've been lurking, then get your messages in because I will read your name and possibly take a couple questions at the end. But I know that we all have to get off to work and start our days as well. From the Blaze. San Francisco mayor announces city will pay some pregnant women $1,000 a month, but only if they're black or Pacific Islander. Another race-based program. From Chris Field. The mayor of San Francisco wants to help pregnant women with the financial burden of having and caring for infant, but only certain pregnant women. White, Asian, and Hispanic expectant mothers need not concern themselves with applying for help from the city's new program. It's only for black and Pacific Islander women. That's racist. I hate to tell you that, but that's racist. Mayor London Breed announced the city's new Abundant Birth Project on Monday, the Miami Herald reported. The public-private partnership will give $1,000 a month during a woman's pregnancy and for the first 6 months after the baby is born. But the city is limiting the monies to 150 black and Pacific Islander women who the city said have been on the wrong side of the long-standing racial gap in birthing outcomes. Yeah, how much do you want to bet that this gets extended? The mayor said hopes that so-called basic income supplement will be much bigger in the long term for the women who are able to secure it. She does not want them limited to just 6 months of post-birth help. The mayor has much more in mind, 2 years of giving money to groups of moms by selected race. That's racist. That flies in the face of equal protection under the law. And I'm pretty sure that goes against California's Civil Rights Act, which is still in place. I know they're trying to repeal it right now, but I'm pretty sure that flies in the face of the state's equal protection and anti-discrimination laws, their civil rights laws. So that one I think is going to go before the court. That might be the first thing that Justice Amy Coney Barrett hears, if not the election case that's probably going to be coming up off of this. We went a whole episode without talking about the notorious ACB. But yeah, that's pretty racist right there. So that's what we have for the news today. And the last thing we're going to do is read the names of everybody who chatted in the live chat here. So let's start from the top, starting with today, and then we will go through the week because I've got all the names written down from the week. Thank you guys. From the bottom of my heart, let's see who we got here. Let's bring this over here so we can see. We have got Ron Helton with the AOC sticker, Spartan 0000 Superior 1, POS 8 Kisme Tendi Kyle Dog. Spartan, did you have a stroke when you were typing? I don't know what any of that means. Biden gave Trump the virus. We've got some more Ron Helton Spartan over here. It should be a crime to report news that fake, turning the criminal into the victim. Yep. Let's see, who else do we have here? Wolf 356 or 336 rather. Thank you for the what did you leave me? A lemon. Thank you for that. I cannot see because I mean you're seeing what I'm seeing right now. I can't see the DLive donations over on the screen. So, and thank you Spartan for bringing that up to my attention. You rock. Spartan's one of our mods over there on the DLive side, and he completely rocks at his job. We've got more Ron, more Spartan. Now, you guys were going back and forth good through the beginning of this. Oh, there we got some more. We got a Miami 1984 morning. How we doing? By denouncing white supremacy, they mean Kyle R. Yes. Yeah, it's political theater by the nasty left. Clinton is a Rhodes Scholar, but he's a piece of shit. Thank you, Ron. Imagine interrupting the press secretary of Stalin? Maybe. If that was the USSR under Stalin, that reporter would be escorted out and never heard of or from again. Where is the damn river? Where is the river? Common LGBTQ comrade seals. I have the best live chat. Even if there's only a few of you guys in here, I have the best live chat. Absolutely, hands down. We've got Galt over here, over on DLive. Yep, that was odd. Thank you, Galt. Did Galt throw me a lemon too? I didn't see. Spartan says, debt is fiction. The debt is to keep people in slave mode. It's a form of shame, guilt tripping us to high taxes. Yep. Chaotic94, what's your stance on personal tactical nukes? If you can afford a nuclear weapon and you can maintain it, you should have it. But keep in mind that these things are cost prohibitive, rare, and they have a lot of money involved in maintenance as well. If you can do all of those things, have at it. Don't point it at me. That's all I ask. But yes, yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Chaotic. And we've got the sticker party here. Miami says, unwitched JJ's. Blind Fear, definitely lurking. Thank you, Blind Fear, for popping in, checking us out. Those are emojis that don't show up for you. Post 8, Kisme, 10D. Oh, okay. Okay, yeah, because I'm on the Restream bot. That's why. Yes, okay. Galt gifted 100 lemons. Oh, thank you, Galt. Absolutely. Thank you, then. And thank you for pointing that. Like I said, you guys, this is what I see as we're going through the chat. You're seeing what I see. All right. From earlier on in the week. On Monday, we had Ron Helton. Sully Blue was in here. Macone PC in 240p. That was a new name. Thanks for stopping by. Unsatiable was here for a little while. I miss Unsatiable. He's a lot of fun in the chat. I can't tell if he's serious or trolling when he's in the chat, but he is a lot of fun. Miami was in here. There was another name in here, but I can't read it because it is very, very close to the N-word, and that will probably get picked up by YouTube's algorithms. But thank you, 123. On Tuesday was a busy day over there. We had Sully, we had Spartan once again. Ashley Goldman was in for a second. That was a new name. Miami was in here. There was an Alexandru with 4 underscores afterwards. Thanks for coming and checking the channel out. Corvo Bianco Nero, Ron, and I had a Huai to Pig U. Thanks everybody who came and chatted on Tuesday. On Wednesday we had Ron Helton, Sully Blue, Cypher KO 101, Numbtooth Boom on Wednesday. Unsatiable was in here, and we had a Schecter sponsor. And I know that Cypher Co and Numbtooth, I know were just asking me if I wanted to buy subscribers, but we'll still thank the bots. Okay, you guys are going to make me open up my D-Live after this and go see what you guys are putting in there, but I'm watching the YouTube on the monitor over here, so... Okay, I hear you loud and clear. The next time I do monitor, I'll do the D-Live, so I can see your emojis over there. Thursday, we had Ron in Miami, and that was it through the chat, and that was everybody. So, thanks everybody who came and hung out throughout the week, kept me honest, brought the stories to my attention, and just generally had a good time in the chat. You guys were having a blast today over in the chat. So, thanks both of you, Ron and Spartan, and Galt, and Wolf, and Miami. And I'm forgetting the Twitch guy's name. Chaotic94. Thanks all you guys for coming over, and Blind Fear as well for coming over and hanging out, and everybody else who came out through the week. We are probably, and I'm going to stress the probably at this point because every time I've said we're not going to have an Ed Talk this weekend, we wound up having an Ed Talk. So we are probably not going to have an Ed Talk this weekend. Unless I get a bunch of people together and we do another roundtable at the last minute. But I'm probably not going to have an Ed Talk this weekend, so we will be back here on Monday for the Red and Ed Show, rounding up the stuff that we talked about throughout the week and the debates and the whole COVID thing with the president. We'll be talking about all of that and more on the Red and Ed Show, so come and hang out with us there. Otherwise, we will be back here in the morning with more Contemporary. Until then, I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary.